Hi! I recently cosplayed Ida from the Owl House and made her staff as a prop, and I'm gonna show how I made it in this video. To make Owlbert's pattern, I used the trusty method of taking a similarly shaped item and wrapping it up in saran wrap and duct tape. I've used this method to make clothes, and it also works for props. Once my bottle was all wrapped up, I then took a marker and just drew out where I wanted the seams to go. Once those were on, you just cut out on the seams and you have your pattern. Because the bottle was bigger than I wanted my Owlbert to be, I took my pattern pieces and traced them digitally. And so, because I have these digital files, I will post them for you guys if you wanted to use them for your own Owlbert. But then I just took my pieces and traced them onto my foam and cut them out with a box cutter. I made sure I was cutting at an angle for my seams, that way they would line up well. Then I started gluing my pieces together. I made sure to not glue the back on just yet though, and you'll see why a little later in the video. I then used a thinner foam to cut out Owlbert's face and wings. These will also be in the download as well, and they have little slits in them, and this is just to help fit the shape of Owlbert a little better, and you just glue those together with the same glue. And here's why I did not glue the back on just yet. Because I'm adding lights to my Owlbert, I wanted to line the inside with some tinfoil, and it was a lot easier to do this without having it all glued together. With the tinfoil in place, I then glued his back on as well as the wings. Before gluing the top piece on, I sanded Owlbert. Any parts of the pattern that didn't line up or just looked kind of rough, I sanded, as well as the bottom where my wooden dowel would stick in. The top does not fit perfectly, and I did this so I could then go back and sand it and give it a rounded edge. Any place I sanded kind of left a funky texture on the foam, and to make sure it would look smooth, I painted over it a couple times with some gesso and then sanded the gesso once it was dry. Here I am just covering his eye holes so I can prime him with Plasti Dip without painting the tinfoil inside as well. Then I traced my dowel to make 2 circles, which I glued together and sanded to make the base of the staff, and then I primed this with gesso as well. And then I repeated the process for the beak. I cut out the shape of the beak, sanded it, and then primed it. Then I sanded the bottom of the dowel just to make it look more sleek and match the shape of Ida's as well. For the light setup, I bought an LED tea light and made this wire setup so that I would be able to change it out if needed, and to keep the wires in place, I covered them in Worbla, and to make sure that when I slid Owlbert on, he would fit nice and snug, I glued foam to the base of it. With the dowel finished, I was now ready to start painting Owlbert, which this was the part I was super excited for. It really brings him to life, and I basically just took my base colors that matched my reference image and did a couple coats of those, and once it was looking nice, I then added some highlights and shadows, and then for the final details, I added some wood grain, which made him look more realistic, and it was actually super fun adding those details. Once I was done painting, I added a satin varnish, and this just really deepened the colors and made everything pop. For Owlbert's eyes, I just used some plastic that would have been garbage and sanded it so you couldn't see through it, and glued it behind his face piece. And all that was left was to glue his face on and slide him onto the dowel, and he was all ready and assembled, and I was ready to feel like the most powerful witch in the Boiling Isles. I'm super happy with how Owlbert turned out. I think he's adorable, and I hope this was helpful if you're planning on making your own Owlbert, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!